This is my first interview, Journey 2 with LC Griffin, and I have Syreeta Ziegler, a fempreneur. I read that about her, and I'm super, super excited because I have admired you from afar. We've never met, but I have admired you from afar, and I always wondered like how you're so happy and always seem so joyful, right? And so when I went on Instagram one day and I saw you said something about being single and solid, right? And I'm just like, yeah, I need to figure that out because this past, I want to say year and a half, I've struggled with that because I'm 34 and that biological clock is ticking and I do want to have another child, and being single, you know, I mean, you can do it, but I don't want to. So I just wanted to start off by asking you, like, what has your journey been like getting from maybe being single and not so happy and just being single and solid?
Well, that's a great question. And I just want to also say that I've admired you as well. Very positive, great messages. And so, but just to segue into, I want to make sure I make this clear that, as women, we all go through those moments of vulnerability, frustration, but again, a lot of that is based on societal norm. And so that's the point of book. That's the point of me trying to create a community. I want to create a safe place for women like yourself, like myself, to know that even though you might be single at 34, that doesn't define you. That doesn't mean anything. Even in regards to you having another child, you still can do all of that. And, I'm a, spiritual person as well. I'm a Christian, and I do tie it all back to, because I do think it's important, if we're going by Christian standards, if we are dating, we're dating with purpose. We should be dating with the intention of being in a committed relationship that leads to marriage. That's important. But I don't think that God intended us to date anyone or to date somebody out of his will just so you can say you're with someone or just to be married. And, our time clock is not God's. And what I found is when we try to just fill in the gaps, to say we're not single and we think we're getting ahead, like, oh, I'm 33 or I'm 32 now, so I want to be married by 34 to have my child. So this guy is available. He's interested in me. Okay, let me make it work. Even though I'm seeing red flags that, go against what I would need in a mate, or what I would think would be a good even father figure for the child that I have or want to have. But he's a man and he wants to be with me. So let's just ignore the red flags. And as we know, and the pink flags too, because I talk about that, because sometimes things are not as obvious, but you have to use your discernment, your intuition, and still know overall that this is not going to be a good fit for you. But we ignore them, and we think that red flags are going to turn into white flags, and they don't, or white dress, that is. And they don't. And guess what happens? So now, if you're like most women, now that you've gotten rid of this, because you're going to eventually break up, and now that you've gotten rid of this toxic baggage, it doesn't just go away. So you have to go through a healing process. And as women, we are resilient. You can and you will come back. However, do I want to keep putting myself in that position to keep taking my energy and my spirit as a woman, devoting it to someone when it's not going to lead to anything permanent and the writing was on the wall? That's why it's important to be solid as a single, because being solid as a single allows you to go through the process in the right timing, the time that God has for you. There's no pressure. It's like, what is this race? What is this race? Who are we running against? Right. And there are people who got married, right out of college or, in their 20s who are divorced now. Some are, on their second, third, fourth spouse. There's no race, and I think it's absolutely beautiful to go through the process, to be able to find your soulmate or the one God has for you, to get married, to have your children together, and to be in a healthy, loving relationship. And for those people that it happened like that, that is beautiful. God bless. But for the ones that, we are on the single end for whatever reason at this point, you have to trust the process, and you can't compare your life to someone else's as well. And then everything that may seem Like, you know, a lot of us are trying to be like the Joneses and don't realize the Joneses ain't the Joneses. Okay.
Correct.
And we're praying God, we're asking God, can I have a relationship like theirs? And you actually do get a relationship like theirs because you didn't know what was going on behind closed doors.
Correct.
And you know, and a lot of those people who are married and, you know, they have vulnerable moments, just like we have moments that we may desire to be with a companion, and that's normal. And, you know, it's nothing wrong with that. But they have moments where they wish they were single, you know what I'm saying, or desire their independence. So it's just more so there's a human nature or psychology to that. You're going to always have a desire to have what you don't, you know, that puts value on it in itself because you can't obtain it or you don't have it right now. But the point of this guide is it's to kind of reel it on back, put it in proper perspective. And for you said you're 34. And I'm 41, so you can imagine. And I actually got engaged when I was 34, and so and I'm single right now. So with that being said, it is to bring it all back full circle. Let's go from the drawing board. It's okay if you allow yourself to know that it is okay to be single. It really is. Right. Now, and you really get in touch with this right here. You have to. That self-worth, that self-value. When you begin to value yourself, other people do too. And you'll find you'll never lose interest of men because you're valuing yourself or because you're folk. I promise you that. Right. Men are very attracted to what they can't have or what they have to work to get. So you don't have to worry about, you know, not getting to the person that you're supposed to be with. But I just feel like God has, if that's what you truly desire, we have to be in line with God. We can't be out of his will, but then ask that he's with us to do what we want to do. You know, we have to be in his will for him to allow his will to take place in our life. And sometimes there is some pruning that needs to be done. Sometimes we don't know what's on the other side of our purpose. And to be honest, a lot of us, if we knew what was to come, what God had in store for us, we wouldn't even on down the line. We might not want to mate during that time. We might want to be single.
My point exactly. Yeah. So like, okay, so you said you're engaged at 34. When that went awry or it didn't work out, like, did you automatically have these values that you have right now, or did it kind of come through time?
That's a great question as well. It was a combination. So I'm not gonna lie, that kind of because what it did, it kind of played on some of the frustrations, or you know how you kind of feel like, when is my turn, God, or whatever. And it's like, the best way I can compare it is like if you were on an island, right? And you've been waiting and waiting for someone to come rescue you from that island. And then you got used to being on that island, to be honest. You got comfortable because you know what I'm saying? You start adapting to it. And then all of a sudden, you know, SOS, that you get news that they finally hear the radio or whatever. Someone is coming to rescue you. And you know, and so you're waving, you're excited, you know what I'm saying? You're like, okay, now I'm getting excited again, you know? And they drop the little ladder or whatever. And then it's like, nah, we gonna keep on going.
Yeah.
or maybe the ladder dropped in the water, you know? And so it's like, are you kidding me? You know, and the funny part about it is because I really wasn't wanting to be just super, I don't want to say public, but you know, this person was kind of extra, like, you know, posting everything of us or whatever. So I kind of, because I do feel like you should allow the guy to do that first and foremost anyways, you know. But so basically we did have like a public engagement, and you know what I'm saying? So it, you know, it's a little embarrassing, you know, when that doesn't work out, and then you're like, okay, now, you know, now what, whatever. But to be honest, it's really like a time it really pulled a lot of stuff together. Like, you know, from my past, just how I view love and relationships, and you know, and I'm an empath by nature as well, and so sometimes we get to the lower end of the stick when it comes to that stuff, anyways. But it just allowed me to go to a place of reflection and understanding, and so with that's when I started just really just writing. And that's when I really just started coming to that next level Because I feel like when you enter your 30s, that's when you really start to really see who you are as a woman. You're becoming that woman. You know, it really is like a transition from the young lady, the girl, the young lady to the woman, but it's a transition. And let me tell you, once you get here, I mean, it's all over. And it's like, you're just so, because you're like, man, if I was this girl right here, this woman right here, no way, you know.
I say that all the time now. I'm just like, you know, if because being single and then like, you know, something doesn't work out. So the last guy I was talking to, it just didn't work out. And I found myself like blaming myself for why it didn't work out. Now, granted, I had some stuff I had going on, but that's what I mean. Like I had stuff going on prior to, and I brought that in. And after that, it was just like down here from there. And I did see all type of red flags. But I'm just like, no, you know, he's good, or I can change that. Like, that's my one. I just knew I could change it. Now at 34, I'm just sitting here like the caliber of men that I've talked to.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Like I wouldn't even give them a second thought at this point. You know what I mean? Like, ew. I always say that, like when I see them on social media, I'm just like, ew, like what was I even thinking?
Right.
You know what I mean? So, but I can't lie. And listen, when I got your book, I honestly thought, I was pleasantly surprised. And I'm going to tell you why.
Yeah.
I thought that it was going to be like this story about you and, you know, all this stuff. And I got it. I was like, I need to.
I'm so glad you said that too. It's right.
Yeah, like I was looking at it. And for those of you that even thinking about getting her book, definitely do so, because there are so many things in here. Like I saw something that I had talked about before, and it's my boundaries, right? And I'm like, listen, I need to write that down, because when I'm saying it out loud to my friends and stuff like that, they're like, that's weird. It's like, no, it's a hard line for me. Now I know that. You know what I'm saying? And you really have to be in a space to be able to write this down, though, because 10 years ago, I would have been like, you know, I just want to drop the book. Yeah. I just want to be with somebody.
Right. Forget about it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I want to thank you, because I literally thought I was going to sit here and just read about your story, which is no problem.
I overstand. And just know that everything about the way I set it up was intentional. And trust me, I'm a writer by nature, always have been, and I can get very wordy. And I do plan to release some more. Just, you're going to see a lot that's going to be released in association, you know, but I will say I wanted to make sure the structure of this was not too heavy, was an easy read. And I wanted to be a guide. And that's why I even have the, you know, spaces for you to fill in, for you to reflect. And notice I say things like your boundaries, your standards, because they vary. That's subjective by nature. But what's important is that when you can look back and you can look at these things that are important to you, and the way it's set up, you know, you, after each section, you reflect on it, and then you even have a journal. And so when you put it up, and let's say 3 months from now, you start seeing someone, and you have these questions, or, you know, or some things do kind of stick out, you can pull it back out.
Right.
And then you can look at the things that you've wrote in there that say, you know what? Oh, no, I said I was not going to compromise this. This is why I'm feeling that anxiety, or this is why I'm, you know, and excuse me, but that's what I wanted to do. And I didn't want it to be too long, too heavy, because, you know, people who are readers or just avid readers that read for entertainment, you know, can read, you know, very long, extensive novels or info books. But, you know, for this in particular, everybody who may need, you know, the information from this may not be readers. You get what I'm saying? They may not be, you know, people who sit down and read for hours and hours and days after days or whatever. But I wanted this to be for any woman who may be in, you know, or just as a reference, a guide, you know, in your single journey, wherever that is. Because you can be, you know, in a relationship or dating, you're still technically single. And and it's still important that even if you're in that journey, you can be, you know, possibly in the place of possibly getting engaged. But if you read this and then something kind of sticks out to say, did I compromise a lot? Because the reality is people get married, but people also get divorced. And we're looking at the divorce rate steady rising. You know, it's been at 50%, pretty much 50%, but it's steady rising, and it's becoming more of the norm to get married, to get divorced. And my personal belief, while, you know, I don't want to get married to get divorced. And I did see patterns. My thing in my earlier years, it was just more so I dated the popular, good looking guys, or, you know, but the player types, you know, but I was a lot younger. And then I had a focus, you know, on my music and everything, and or things that I was doing, and just being a mom. And like I said, it takes time to grow into who you are, because what you share with me, it really just sounds like, you know, the maturation, like, and that's what you go through. And that's why some of the things that you or people you used to date or see, you wouldn't, because you grow. And that's beautiful. But that's the whole point of a single season. And I believe if we embraced our single season better, then we would most of the people who get married would have a married season that lasted for a long time versus just a season. But you know, we don't.
Yeah, one of my favorite singers, Beyonce, that's I was going through Instagram, and she said, you know, she was talking to Oprah, and she was saying that make sure that you have your own life before you become someone's wife. And so often I see even people in my family that they are constantly in relationships, right? And for me, it's just like, okay, so what are you running from? Like, how did you 6 months you was with this person, you were in love, and then 3 months it's a new person? Like, I can't keep up. I'm calling people, you know, Peter, who's John. It's just, I can't keep up, like literally. And, you know, my family is really, like my cousin the other day, she said, you know, cousin, can you just date? You know, I want to see you date someone. And I'm like, listen, I have a lot to do. Like, I'm open. I think I am, but I just don't have the time for, like, my tolerance has gone down so much. And when you talk about boundaries, you know, people may think like, so, you know, I'm not going to say his name, but he's on Instagram, and it's just like, you know, all this, what men want, and how dare you want this kind
I know
of man.
exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, how dare you want this kind of man when you're not even this kind of woman? And so that makes, like, all those insecurities come up, and it's like, oh, so I can't say that I want to wait to marriage. I can't say that, you know, how that's ridiculous for me. And I think that plays on wanting to hurry up and be with someone.
You're exactly right. And so there's several things you talked about that were awesome. And I can definitely agree with you 1,000%. First of all, you know, we can get that intimidation factor from our friends and our family. And I actually I'm going to share a post soon about that, about, you know, your friends and family, they're awesome, your coworkers, all that, you know, but let me tell you something. Those same people who are pressuring you about being in a relationship, when you get in a relationship that you don't need to be in, they will be the same ones that's like, oh my goodness, like, you know, like, bless your heart. Like, when you're going through the little downtime, and then when you break up when it breaks up, because it will, when it fails, you know, they'll be there to console you, but then they're also gonna be like, okay, now keep it moving, and they're gonna go on with and you'll be this one that's now you can't even focus your energy, can't even focus on your goals. And so don't get too caught up in that. Those same people, and that's, you know, that's just what it is. You know, the same people who, you know, encourage you to do that, they'll celebrate you when you're with someone, but they'll celebrate y'all when you break up. You know, they're just there kind of to, you know, don't get too caught up in that. The other portion that you mentioned, the no name person, but just that overall ideology of, you know, this idea that, you know, oh, you're 34, you have a child, let me tell you something. And I did a post on this, it was a while ago, but I touched on that whole idea. Those in you know, I don't know your faith belief or anything like that, but I will just say this, you know, if those people who think like that, that's probably not who you would aspire to be with anyways, okay? Absolutely. But let me tell you something. Always do what you're supposed to do and be who you're supposed to be. Your standards, your boundaries, do not compromise them. Because let me tell you something. You can compromise them and you're still not going to be with, you're not going to get Mr. Right by compromising. And those same people who are judging you for your standards and boundaries are will be the same ones, looking at you when you've dropped them and you're still back at square one.
Right.
We have to learn. We want to do it our way. And it sounds like, oh, well, even when it comes down to waiting for sex and being intimate. And I get it. I know we're all grown. You have kids, you had some relationships. It sounds very it sounds very square. That's why I use the language wait. Wait as long as you can. So
Right.
I won't tell somebody to wait forever. And I know it's kind of hard to share that message with adults who have been sexually active. But this is why I say that. And it kind of goes in line with Steve Harvey, what he put out, years ago in his book. But if you wait, you start seeing someone, you click in and you feel good about it. And as women, most of us, we don't just share that part of us with just anyone. We share it when we feel that connection. However, when it's early on, there's a lot of different variables that, on down the road, he may show you that, once he does, and you realize, I don't want, to be with this person.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you something. That's how we get trapped in a lot of toxic relationships. Because when a woman gives that part of herself up, that's investment. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the biggest part of us that we can give. Mm-hmm. And it's not the same for a man. So for them, it's almost like once that's happened, it kind of goes downhill with us from there because they've gotten really what they really, really want. Right. Whereas a woman, once you've done that, it's kind of like, no matter what you see in that person, a lot of things start coming out. Well, but I've already did this with him. So let me try to take some clay and make this be a good relationship, even though it's not. So, or, 2 weeks down the road, everything's been going great for this month and we have been going out and he's been whining and dining me and he's already talking about, he could see me being his wife and all this stuff. And then 2 weeks down the road, you find out he's been seeing somebody else or he's in a serious relationship, you know what I'm saying? Or he's just not who you thought he was, or a month down the road, 2 months. So that's why I said, and then when you wait just a little bit longer and you stay in line, you keep that relationship with God, you'll see things will surface and you'll be like, you know what? I'm so glad, that I didn't, that I didn't go ahead and do that, because it's not just, don't believe what the world says. It's not just a physical investment. It is much more than that. And there's a lot more to that. And, even down to the biology of it, the oxytocin that's released, that chemical that's released during the intimacy, it bonds the woman to the man. Mm-hmm. So that it's a lot to that whole thing. It's not just even from a spiritual standpoint, it's biological. Right. So with that being said, I advise everyone to wait as long as possible, so you don't find yourself, trying to make a toxic relationship work or feeling regret. And that's the worst feeling.
And your mind, honestly, I've been not active for a while and my mind is so much clearer and I can see the BS very quickly. I definitely believe in God. That's the only person I believe in. And I'm like, God, okay. So and really quickly.
Okay.
So we were talking about waiting, right? And not fearing the wait. And so it's something in here that you said, you can't have faith without patience. Okay. I'm going to talk about this for a second. I've never prayed for patience. And the reason why I do not pray for patience is because God be like, oh, you want patience? Cool. Let me help you out with that. No. I don't want any parts of that. Right. But I understand what you're saying, right? Because we can rush too quickly and we can have sex too quickly and we can, tire our hearts and our minds in too quickly. And listen, I'm just so excited that I have someone that I may not know personally, but I see you're so pretty and you're so confident. No, thank you. You're so confident. And it makes me like, okay, if she's cool with being single and solid, then I can be cool with being single and solid. And, I'm good. I'm good enough. I'm worthy. You have some of that in your book. I'm about to,
I know you're gonna make me go there. That's what I'm like, it hit me when you did that. Like, but I want you to know that's why I'm having chills right now, because that was the point. And that just, and believe it or not, I see it. I see it in all my sisters. I see it. I know. I can tell from the post because I have been there. And I'm gonna tell you, even and just so you know, being single solid doesn't mean you're perfect. Doesn't mean that you don't have moments of vulnerability, but it does mean that, you know what, I'm no longer going to let those moments, those that define me or make me compromise and go, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I will say when you become solid as a single or just solid as a woman and solid in who you are, just know that from a spiritual standpoint, that's when the enemy really gets busy. So really and it steps it up. Okay. Mm-hmm. So now we're not coming with red flags. We're coming as a counterfeit. And we're coming with everything. Yes. That's what, as you get older, most of us, as we get older, we're not, you're going to come at least acting right. That's where the discernment comes in. And I've always had that gift, but I've not always been obedient to it.
Yeah.
But that's what you'll start to see when you become confident as a single and as a woman, just as in who you are. They step their game up, okay? And
I knew. Yeah, I'm sorry. I knew that I had reached that point. Like you said, I still have vulnerability sometimes, but I knew I reached that point when I was talking to someone and he did something or said something. I was just like, I can't do this. And so I stopped talking to him. And maybe like a couple of months later, he reached out to me and he was like, can I apologize? You sure can, but I'm still not talking to you. Like, that's cute. I appreciate it. Thank you. But no. And I felt so good because the old me be like, oh, it's like, oh, nothing, he's still who he is. Okay. He has in 1 month, he did not change. All he did
not change. Exactly.
No. So
I'm so proud of you then. Woo!
Thank you. Listen, I did it and I was excited about it. So I encourage everyone to get her book. It is not a sit down and reflect on what she's gone through, but it's definitely a reflection of self. And I love things like this. I'm a little anal, so I can't write in it. I'm gonna have to write it down because I'm so looking silly. I'm so anal, I can't do it. Okay. But it's amazing. And I saw also that you have a journal for it, and I think that's awesome. So listen, I was excited to get this book. I think everyone should get this book, and really just support what you're doing. I definitely support what you're doing. But tell everyone else what else you have going on, so we can support each other.
Well, yeah, obviously, the book. I do plan on releasing an EP this summer that goes along with it, and there's going to be somewhat of a series because all of it really goes back to the core of self-love and value yourself. And you'd be surprised how once we get that in place and become solidified just as a woman, because even if you're married, if you're in a relationship, you have to always be secure in who you are. And that's when the pieces start to fall. So, really just going really strongly in sharing just things that I've learned in my journey, as well as reflected on other women in that process of, being solid as a woman. And then I also have my nonprofit for teen girls and women is Guide My Heart. And the acronym stands for Health, Energy, Ambition, Relationships, and good use of your time and talents. And, a good portion of that is, self-love, avoiding toxic relationships, and focusing on your goals. And so we will be doing I Influencer. I had our first banquet right before COVID hit in 2020. And so we plan to do another one of those, give out scholarships, and you'll see a lot to come. And hopefully I had planned to start doing my podcast in 2020, and then COVID hit and it just threw a lot of stuff off. And so, but I do plan, I'm already working out the logistics for that now. So hopefully I can have you on. Because the name of it then was going to be Single on a Saturday, but it may change a little bit now. But so I do plan to get the podcast going, and because it's just so much to talk about. And it is. And that, and I'm so glad you shared what you shared today, because that was the point of this, is that, I can't go back. I can't change my past decisions. But if I can take what I've learned and help one other person, and that person helps them, that's a blessing. If one person can avoid, making that decision, say, you know what, let me just, and you know what, that can change your whole life.
Yeah.
So, that was my goal from it. So, thank you so much. This was amazing. And I just appreciate the opportunity.
I appreciate you agreeing to do it, It's my first one. I feel really excited. I could talk to you all day about this.
I know, right?
Like I'm sure I was all into
it. You're so interested. I'm like, okay, yes, girl.
I could, because I really want to. Not that I want to get this thing down because I'll never be perfect, but I definitely want to go into a dating world healthy in my mind and healed in my heart to be able to be open to the right type of love. I know how to get some toxic love, but I want some good healthy love.
There you go. You know yes, toxic love is addictive. That's why it's hard to break, but it's not good for you. But you will get there, and the fact that you're taking accountability, you're being intentional, that's already the first part. And I guarantee you, in a couple, you're gonna be like in such a different place, and you'll be with your amazing husband and get ready to have your. But it takes us. We have to be strong enough to go through that process. It's a maturation process, and it's also a little painful. It's not gonna be. I'm not gonna tell you that it's not painful. It's very painful. The release of it is kind of like having a baby. It is painful, and that's what people understand. The process does involve pain, but that pain leads to you healing and being amazing. The other pain, when you're staying in those toxic relationships, it doesn't go away. It just keeps getting worse and worse.
Leads to more pain.
Yeah, right. So that this pain leads to process and progress. So yeah.
Well, thank you so much
for
being my first guest. I cannot wait. I want everyone to see it and be inspired. And we have to, you're in Georgia. So at some point, let's do a meetup or something.
Where are you at in Georgia?
I'll tell you after I get up here.
I got you.
And but everyone follow Miss Syreeta. It's Syreeta Shanae.
Yes, Syreeta Shanae. Yeah.
On Instagram, because I was gonna say Ziegler, but I know it's Syreeta.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
On Instagram, I love all her posts. She's amazing. And thank you for just being an example of how to be single and solid.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on, and many blessings to you. And yes, we will definitely have to do our get up. So just let me know.
I definitely will. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.